We're gonna start with the Brewers because they have been the best team in the division for several years now. In 2021, they won 95 games, finished in first. 2022, second place with 86 wins. 2023, 92. 2024, 93. So they've averaged 91 and a half wins the last 4 seasons. By the way, I want to point out that Pacoda thinks the Cubs are going to win 91.6 this season. Basically the same record that the Brewers have averaged over the last 4 years.
And the Brewers are projected for how many, Luke?
Pacoda, 79.4. Zips, 81.
Thank you. We needed the context.
That is
Zips is back.
That's a big drop.
Yeah.
That's a big drop. Remember, the Brewers beat the Cubs out. The Brewers beat the Cubs and Cardinals out by 10 games last year. The computer thinks they're going to finally take the fall that we've been waiting for.
Well, if you remember projections, second coffee, okay?
Oh, nasty. No, I'm not. I got a cold again.
Yeah.
It's miserable.
I'm just glad it's moved to you.
Yes, I knew you had it. I might have gotten it from you.
Well, it was 2 weeks ago. Anyway.
Oh, that's right.
The thing about projections,
period.
the division projections last year, I think going into last year, these projections had the Brewers finishing third or fourth behind the Cubs, Cardinals, and Reds. So this one's a little bit different in the fact that even though they have the Cubs winning, they definitely have more belief in the Brewers this year than they even did going into last year. I'll just say this. We all sit here. The chat is going to say that has said this 1,000 times all offseason. The Brewers, they just figure it out. It's like they stole the devil magic from the Cardinals from when I was a kid.
That's what scares me.
And they just figured out. You lose Willy Adames. I think they'll miss the bat. His defense, all right. You still have Jackson Chourio, but how will Jackson Chourio be in year 2? I feel like he's probably going to be pretty good, even though the projection systems don't exactly love him. I still feel like he's going to be awesome because he's shown to be a 5-tool type guy. You'll get Christian Yelich back, who's older, but the bat still was his bat was awesome last year before the injury, right? And then I think the biggest question for them when it comes to offense, and if they exceed projections, is if Garrett Mitchell stays healthy. They need Garrett Mitchell to be healthy in 2025 if they're going to be better than the Cubs. And he just is never healthy. So they're going to have Terang at short probably, and that guy they got back for Devin Williams probably in that infield to go with Ortiz at third.
Contreras at catcher.
And Contreras at catcher. That's fine. I'd still take the Cubs over their infield. I would. Terang is another.
I would take the Cubs over their infield, yes.
I would also take the Cubs outfield over the Brewers. On paper, I would take Cubs everything over the Brewers anything.
I would too, but their outfield does have great potential. I think the Cubs are more certain, a much higher floor.
Yes,
unquestionably.
But the Brewers have potential with Chourio.
Have great potential with those young players.
If Chourio is a 5-WAR player and Garrett Mitchell is just healthy and hits like he does when he is healthy, to go with Yelich as either your DH or just your left fielder, that's really good. They also have Sal Frelick, who's a really good defensive player. He's not exactly the best offensive player, but he's a really good defensive player. So I think that if the Brewers will exceed projections, if you talk about their offense, they're going to need Garrett Mitchell to be healthy, and they're going to need Chourio to be even better in year 2. How many sophomore slumps have we seen? How many times have you mentioned that Michael Busch still has to prove it? Which I agree.
That's true.
So
fair.
I think that when you talk about the Brewers, yes, they could easily find themselves being an 89 to 91 win team. But to me, what puts the Cubs over them right now, as we sit here on March 13th, is there is more certainty on the Cubs roster. You know what you're going to get out of Nico Horner. You know what you're going to get out of Dansby Swanson. You know what you're going to get out of Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, and Kyle Tucker. That's nearly the entire, nearly over half the lineup. Now, their wild cards are PCA, Matt Shaw. Can Miguel Amaya be what he was in the second half of last year? Is Carson Kelly a really solid defensive backup that can also still have that 99 WRC plus he had last year?
So.
If so, then I think the Cubs will be better than the Brewers. But to bring it back around on the Brewers, what will probably keep them afloat is probably their bullpen. That is probably what will keep them afloat. Because if they can get a lead early, that bullpen, even without Devin Williams, is still really good.
How good's Nestor Cortez going to be this year? You worry?
Right.
Isn't that the kind of guy that you're just like, oh, here we go. This will be the guy that'll rip our hearts out for no reason whatsoever. Just a guy.
The frustrating Cubs offense of years past, Nestor Cortez will twirl some sort of gem.
Who will give
give
us more pain? Nestor Cortez or Jose Quintana?
Right. Yes.
There is at least one Jose Quintana revenge game this season, right?
Well, and what does Woodruff have left in the tank coming off injury? Can he
Tommy John?
Can he get back? Will he be that type of player?
I think that he can get back, but I don't know if he'll be what they need him to be. You know how many times guys come back from Tommy John and they're not, they need time to get back, and it's always the year after where they're in the form they need to be. They still have not Willie Peralta,
Freddie Peralta, and they brought in Savale too as well. I mean, the rotation's going to be fine. I think the Cubs offense is better than their rotation, but we've played this game before.
I think the ability, like their ability in the bullpen, and the fact that they will have a good defense is what will keep them in this division race. And will they get enough offense from some guys that you don't really know anything about? But I think at the end of the day, if they're really going to be in it, Chourio will be even better in year 2.
So let's play both sides of it. If you're a Brewers fan, best case scenario for this season. I mean, I don't want to say it, but if we're trying to do both sides of this, best case scenario was they still own the division. I didn't think they did last year. Somehow they will do the voodoo up in Wisconsin, and you still won't be able to beat them, even though they're not good. Somehow they'll exceed projections. They'll top their 81 or 79 wins that are projected by the computer, and I don't think they can win 90 games, but let's say they win 89 games. Mm-hmm. Remember, Zips has them at 81 wins. It has the Cubs at 84. That's only 3. Mm-hmm. That's only 3 different. And remember, the Cubs were 10 back of them last year. Mm-hmm. Had the Cubs made enough of a leap and the Brewers taken enough step back? That's not crazy. Best case scenario, they're still the best team in the division. Worst case scenario, the Reds could pass them for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Cardinals. No. And I don't know about the Pirates, but the Pirates will have some stud pitching going on early in the season. If their young guys can hit.
Then they'll lose 10 games in August.
Worst case scenario, I think they're the 3rd best team in the division.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Well, best case also, they need the division to come back to them, right? As you mentioned, the division needs to be an 86-win division, and then the Brewers are in it. Worst
case scenario for the Brewers, they're the 4th best team in the division, and the franchise has to be sold to Greg Braggs after a lawsuit following the escalator thing. That's probably their worst case scenario, that Braggs is their owner by the end of the season.
He changes the name to Milwaukee Braggs?
Yeah, the Milwaukee Braggs. And he turns them into a minor league team. Where they just do little stunts running around the bases.
Come on down to Brick Park.
Yeah, come on to Braggs Field.
Yeah. Let's go through the rotation and compare it to the Cubs.
Okay.
All right, Freddie Peralta, Nestor Cortez, Tobias Myers, Aaron Savali, Jose Quintana. I guess Aaron Ashby can be thrown in there. And then, Brandon Woodruff coming off Tommy John.
Sure.
Then
Peralta's real.
Right. Peralta, in my opinion, is a true number 1. If not number 1, a true number 2. But he was definitely their number 1 last year, and they won 90-some games.
Do you think Peralta's better than Steele and or Shota?
Vegas believes that. So right now, the odds for the Cy Young, I looked up this morning, I believe Freddie Peralta is 22-1, Shota is 30-1, and Justin Steele is 40-1. So they like Peralta better than the other 2.
I don't disagree with it. I think if he were somehow added to the Cubs roster, he might become the ace. Yeah. He'd probably be the ace, and you'd push each guy down a little bit.
I look at the rest of it, though. It's like, okay, Cortez, And Jose Quintana was great with the Mets last year, right? And he'll probably be able to eat innings for the Brewers, and who knows if he'll be as good as he was with the Mets. I'm sure the Mets right now, with all the injuries they're getting, would love to have Jose Quintana back. I'm surprised they didn't bring him back.
Why aren't they interested in Lance Lynn or the Yankees?
There you go. Tobias Myers is kind of a wild card. He pitched well against the Cubs, I think, multiple times last year. He's a young arm for them. But DL Hall going on the 60-day injured list is a huge loss for them. He was part of the Corbin Burns trade, I believe. Robert Gasser also on the injured list for them, 60-day right now. I don't know when it's retroactive to, but either way, they're going to start the year on the injured list. I think the Cubs have a really solid top 2, and I think Milwaukee has a solid 1. But then after that, it's like, I don't really know. Savali, I guess, pitched pretty well for them last year in a really like no one expected situation. I guess you can expect something out of Cortez. I don't find myself really afraid of a lot of these guys, and I don't know what Woodruff will be in the first year back after injury. And he's
but
not
if he's old Brandon Woodruff,
right? But he's not even going to be on the team on opening day. Now,
No.
Could he be on the team late April, early May? Sure, but I think what I'm getting at here is, even though the Cubs don't have a guy like a Freddie Peralta, at least at this point, based off proven major league experience, I do feel like the Cubs have a better rotation overall, even though there's uncertainty with Matthew Boyd and whoever is going to be in the 5 spot, right? Tyone will find a way to give you innings. We just said yesterday he's one of, what did Sean say? Like one of 30 guys the last 2 years to pitch over 300 innings with an ERA over or under 4 or something. I don't know. Whatever it was.
Don't let the numbers get in the way of the good story.
That's why I said the Brewers bullpen will be very key for them in their success. And it's painful because Trevor McGill was once a Cubs prospect. So was Brian Hudson, and they both pitched high leverage innings for the Brewers last year. And I believe McGill is going to be the closer this year for them.
You know how we went into the last 2 seasons saying what if, hoping if this happens, and almost none of it happened, and they ended up with 83 wins. That's how the Brewers feel to me. They do have a lot of they have more big what ifs than the Cubs do going into this season. It doesn't mean baseball won't baseball, and we won't be sitting here pounding our heads onto the table waiting for football season.
Yeah.
But on paper, it's more likely that the Brewers are going to be the Cubs of last season than they are the Brewers of last season.
We all silly like the mayor.